All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and we have been setting you up the last couple of days for the big launch of media days around college football with the SEC and the Big 12 starting up on Monday. We had a chat on TCU. Please check out that live stream at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Now we've got Chris Ross from the LGG. Chris, it's great to have you live from Big 12 media days. It's been a while. How you been? Hello, Chris.
Hey there. Sorry, it's freezing.
Oh, that's okay. Can you hear me?
Hey there. Yeah, the internet's not the best here. It's
okay.
I'm here in the middle of Big 12 Media Days, and it's been quite the experience. I don't know if you can hear me. I hope you can. The internet is it is what it is at this point. Okay, very good. It's the Big 12 puts on quite the production. I mean, between having it here at the Star, Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters, all the coaches today were great. As far as who stood out, Gary Patterson always stands out. David Beatty, the elephant in the room is kind of on the hot seat, and his questions seem to reflect that he was aware of that. Maybe the same for Kingsbury, a little defensive. We've talked to several players. It's quite the production. I don't know what to say beyond that. There's a lot of expectations of the Big 12, but there's no real elite team. So the parity in the conference right now lends itself to each team, kind of opening up about what they're doing. Obviously, the running backs are kind of the star of the show this season, which is odd for the Big 12 since the Big 12 is known for its quarterback play. But talking to Rodney Anderson and everything, they seem pretty confident in this season. They seem confident in Kyler Murray if he does get the start. Lincoln Riley was really coy about that earlier today, which I don't understand why you would encourage a guy not to go to the MLB right away if you're not going to name him as your starter. There's a few things like that talking about the talking about the college, the betting in college football and how that'll work out. Bob Bowlesby talked about that a little bit, so that was pretty interesting, and their concerns, if each state does it different, or kind of what things will play into that. But yeah, just a really fantastic day overall. We're ready for day 2 tomorrow. It's kind of a whirlwind. It's a lot to take in and disseminate in a short amount of time, and we just got done talking to players, so focus all that into a little paragraph or something for you is a little bit difficult, but just go ahead and ask me whatever you like as long as the internet holds up here.
Yeah, Chris, hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me right now?
I can hear you. Yep.
Excellent. So you talked to the players. You weren't able to see the coaches. I just got done watching Gary Patterson's news conference, but you weren't able to take that in?
Yeah, well, I have a couple other guys that were, going around listening to the coaches and stuff. They kind of, I don't know if you've been, but they, each player has a booth and the coach has the booth, and they're all talking at the same time. So you just kind of go around, and one of our strategies is always to talk to the people who aren't being spoken to, and you get more content that way. You get more, you get to know them better if you can talk to them a little bit longer and get to know them better. So that was one of our strategies. But yes, we had a couple of guys listening to coaches and talking to them.
So hopefully later in the week, I can pull from some of the rest of your staff and get some of the other storylines. But based on the players that you spoke with, Chris, what were some of the more interesting narratives or stories that they had?
Well, the most interesting, I would say, was probably Shaun Robinson. He had a lot to say. And Rodney Anderson, expectations are really high for them, but they seem to be handling it well, and especially with Shaun Robinson as a sophomore. And he gave a lot of praise to his coaching staff and getting him ready for that responsibility to kind of lead his team there. But a lot of that was really interesting. The Texas, not Texas Tech, Iowa State, their uniform talk. We talked to Ray Lima about the uniforms, and they're real excited, although he's not a uniform guy. But I asked him which one is his favorite, and he said the Cardinal one, and then he said the white one, and with a long pause in between, he followed up with the black one. But the black one's taken some criticism online, so maybe the players kind of feel the same way as the fans there a little bit.
So the one thing that stood out in terms of the questions that Gary Patterson was taking is that the Big 12 is in a really good place. He didn't feel, based on his travels, and if you look at his track record of jumping around conferences and having conferences disband and move, and so he's always felt it was stable compared to what he was used to, but he understands the line of questioning that the Big 12 is in a really good.
But if you can hear me, conference. He talked a lot about the conference stability, and that's one thing. He's always been a guy to talk up the conference, and this is the second year in a row he's come out and he said that, you know, you only have to hate each other for 3 hours on a Saturday, and then after that, you know, the conference is who you should support. And you know, he's always been a program. That's kind of the same beliefs that I have. I'm always a root for your rival type of guy, because if you're associated with that other team, then how good they are reflects on how good you are. And that's just kind of something I've always thought about in sports. And so, yeah, and I think the narrative's changing in the Big 12 in the last couple of years. Before that, you know, the Big 12 was down, the Big 12 was doomed. That's all we heard. But the Big 12 is alive and well. It's making more money than ever. Members received just as much distribution as the SEC members did this year when you account for Tier 3 rights. And so the quality on the field was also improved. Oklahoma getting to the college football playoff, and a couple of coaches acknowledged how Oklahoma being able to do that, you know, helps the perception of the league and helps them recruit a little better. And so for the Big 12, it's just about, you know, putting together a product, and for better or worse, their motto is this year that the hardest, you know, is the toughest route to the college football playoff, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but at least they're owning it.
Yeah, they are owning it. Depends how the message is sold many of the times. It hits me as basically telling people there's more scrutiny on us. We're not given the benefit of the doubt. And it's probably true, but I don't know that I would want to throw that out there. One other thing, I don't know if you can hear me, Chris. Rodney Anderson, you mentioned him. People got to see him on the national stage in the Big 12 championship game. And then, of course, what he was able to do to a fine Georgia defense. I don't know, though, that a lot of people understand outside the Big 12 that if you take his latter half of the season and extrapolate that, he could be ready for a just mammoth 2018.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you consider that they're breaking in a new quarterback and they might rely on the run game a little bit more than they have in the past. Also, Riley ran a wide open playbook with Baker Mayfield. He doesn't have that, you know, that quarterback with that much experience. And so his playbook might be a little more limited, which again, rely more on the run game than he has in the past. So all that benefits Rodney Anderson, you know, quite a bit. And even, you know, Trey Sermon to some degree running season. In our own preseason rankings, we left Anderson out of the top two running back spots because David Montgomery and Hill, Justice Hill at Oklahoma State, for what you were saying, they both put together a complete season, and you know, we haven't seen that yet from Rodney Anderson. So it's you know, exciting to watch this year for sure.
We're on the line with Chris Ross from the LGG. Covering Big 12 football. You can see he's right in the middle of a Big 12 Media Day. So, Chris, it's been a while. I appreciate you jumping on board, especially since I understand I've been through the gauntlet in the SEC. I understand what the scramble is to try to get coaches and players. So we appreciate you taking some time and making the internet work as best you could to get it done. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, that being Chris Ross, the LGG. Catch him there for Big 12 football coverage. We're coming back right after this live stream. Going to shut down, come right back with Will Gunter from 107.5 The Game, Columbia, South Carolina at SEC Media Days to talk LSU and Texas A&M. We will see you in just a minute.